Okay, thank you everyone for joining this second session on Python bootcamp. So last week we had session number one where we went through the very basics of Python, and so we looked into what is Python and where it is being used, and who all what all companies are using Python. Okay, so we went into that, and then pretty much we covered on variables, data types, and then we covered on control flow like loops and conditions. Okay, and then we also looked into functions and modules. Modules are like libraries in Python. And later we almost finished up with data structures, which are like list and dictionaries. So that's what we covered in the last session. So this is the second session, and so let's go back into the agenda, and we can see that this week two is all about intermediate Python. So, like I said, week one was more of basics, and we covered introduction in that. And here in week two, we will continue with data structures. So we'll be looking at tuple, and we'll be looking at sets, okay, as part of data structure, and then we'll be looking at input output, file handling, error handling, and we'll also look at some basic web API related stuff. Okay, so people who are new again, week three and week four are more of advanced, and next week we'll be covering on data handling with NumPy and Pandas. So NumPy and Pandas are your data libraries, and we'll be going through those libraries. And week four is all about AI related stuff again. So we'll be looking at NLP and basic AI related things we can do with Python. So this is the overall agenda. So anyway, if you have missed week one, it was pretty much we have the video available, recording available, and I think the links will be shared after this session. You can go and check it out. So again, there is a bit of expectations from the learners. So as you know, like Python is really easy programming language to learn, and you have a lot of resources online to learn these. And what we recommend is using the tutorials point, and you can go through the examples in tutorials point and you can understand. And the most basic thing again about learning any programming language is that you need to get your hands dirty and play around, right? You have to practice, and once you practice only you will come to know how to use any kind of programming language. New thing is that we have this Python group, WhatsApp group created. You can maybe scan this QR code, and I think Janardhan has already put the WhatsApp link as well. You can maybe go there, and you can also join the group, and we can have discussions over there as well. Okay. Again, you have to be very curious. That's the only expectation from everyone. Just be curious to learn new things. And yeah, so with that, we get started with the session two. Okay, we'll be looking at data structures again, and this time we'll be looking at tuples. Okay, and before I start that, last time I also covered that we will be using Google Colab. So again, people who have joined today for the first time, so we are using Google Colab as a tool to run our Python programs. I will not explain much on this today. You can always reach out to me, or you can refer the old video, and you can understand what Google Colab is. It's a free environment provided by Google, and all you need is a Google account, and you can run your programs over here. Okay, switching back. So what is a tuple? Okay, so if you are aware of list in Python, tuple is a similar thing. It's a immutable ordered collection of elements. What it means is that once you create a tuple, you cannot change it. Okay, as a list you can keep changing. You can change the elements in a list, but as far as tuple is concerned, you can't change it. And the reason you use a tuple is to again group elements together. You can group objects together, and it is much more easier to handle than a list. Okay, so you can also return a tuple from a function. So we'll be seeing the examples in Google Colab now. You can see that tuple creation is very easy. It's like a list itself, like you have comma separated values, but the difference is that in tuple we use these parentheses or brackets here, normal brackets, but for list we use the square brackets, right? So whenever you see these normal or rounded brackets, it's a tuple. And you can see that you can also like assign values to a variable, like this student has the value of John, the name, age, and some value here. And as a tuple, if you create this as a tuple, you can directly assign this to variables. Okay, and so let's see that in action in our Google Colab. Okay, so here I have an example, this tuple, it's a variable, and I'm saying these are the values here, apple, banana, and cherry, which are again in these round brackets. And if I run this, okay, let it connect to the backend. So the first thing we have to make sure that this notebook is connected to the backend. So once it is done, you can run this. You can see that it outputs this apple, banana, and cherry. So this is just we are outputting whatever there is in the tuple. And again, as a tuple, it can contain different data types. Last time I had explained about data types in Python. So a tuple can contain a string, an integer, or a Boolean type or anything. So if you see here, we are again printing out the tuple here, and this is how it looks. And taking the student example here, you can see that I have a student, okay, which has these values here. So what I can do is this becomes a tuple, and I can assign this whole set of objects to these variables at once. So I have name, age, course, and phone, which I'm assigning it to the student. So what it does is that it separates out these values into each of these variables. So this is pointed, or you can say is referenced into this name. So if I want to print name, I can just do this and it gives me this name, right? And I can do course and it gives me the course. So I don't have to go and explicitly assign each and everything. With tuple, it becomes much more easy. And going into functions, so last time we discussed about return from functions. So we have this function here, get coordinate, which returns a tuple. You can see that this is a function which has a return keyword, which means it returns a function. And what we are doing is we are assigning the return value to x and y here, right? So x comma y equals get coordinates. And what it does is that it again the same thing, like I said, it assigns uh, these values to x and y. So it's much easier compared to a list or tuple. So you can group things together. So that is what a tuple usually is used in Python. Okay, so this is a very basic example of tuple. So before I jump further, are there any questions on this? You can raise your hand or anything, and let me see if there are any questions on.
Till now, there are no questions. But while session is going on, the way we keep it is you post your question so that we know which context you had the question, and at some logical point, someone will be answering them, or somebody in the group. If you know the answer, please feel free to answer that. Any questions so far? It could be just the tuples topic, or it could be even if you're attending for the first time. If you have any questions, you can please ask.
Okay, let me go further. So we'll look at sets again. Set is one of the data structures in Python. Okay, and if you know about set in terms of mathematics, set is again a group of items, but the duplicate elements are not allowed in a set. So a set is a unique collection of objects, right? And the same way in Python, you can have a set which includes some objects, and they should be unique. And the way you create a set in Python is using the curly brackets here. So I can say like my set equals some items here or objects, and I will always put it in curly brackets. You can also use a constructor or a function here to say that set, and then you can say these particular items. Okay, and the reason to use set is you want to avoid the duplicate. So in your programming logic, if you have something where you want to avoid duplicate values, you can always go ahead and use sets. So let's jump and see how sets is used in code. So I have my Google Colab here, and again, like I have this example, my set, okay, which has these values here, 1, 2, and 3, and I say print the set here, okay, and I have the same thing here. I'm trying to set these numbers 3, 4, 5, and I'm trying to print them. Okay, so I get the values 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. So let me show you one thing. So when I say it is a set and it does not include any duplicate values, I have a function here to add the number 3 here. So you can see that I already have the item 3 in my set, right? So when I try to add this, nothing happens. So it's just 1, 2, 3. The same elements are here. If I try to run it couple of times, nothing happens. But instead, if I go and add a fourth different element here, which is 4, it will add that, because like I said, set has the property where it only allows, it does not allow duplicate elements. New elements are always allowed. If again I can do 5 and it keeps adding, but if I try to add again, it will not add. So this is how set is used, and it's pretty much a very basic data structure we use everywhere in Python. And yeah, so before we move on to the next uh, topic, again, are there any questions? Okay, let me see here.
So in the student example, if we are only interested in name and don't need the other values, then how can we use extract just the name?
You're talking about tuple?
This question came when we were doing sets, probably.
Okay. Oh,
Tuple,
sets.
okay. Tuple. Okay, Chaitanya's tuple.
You want just the student name? You want just the name here? So you have this, right? And you are assigning the value of student here, and you just want the name, you just say name, and then you get that value. Sorry, you get this value. You just say name and you get the value here. So you have these 4 values here, right? So it matches how many variables you have here. So you have 4 variables here and you have 4 values and it matches them. So your first one will be assigned to the name. Okay. Um, okay, if there are no questions, we can move on. We
One
can
more
always,
question.
yes,
One more
yes.
question. On our example, it doesn't use print, yet it
Yeah,
still
yeah,
shows
yeah,
the
yeah, sure.
output. Mm.
Sure, sure,
Is
sure.
it a Google Colab feature?
Yeah, it's a Google Colab feature. You can either say a name here directly, or you can always say print if you're doing it on your normal Python environment. You can do print, but Google Colab gives you that feature that you can directly put it as name and it will give you the output. Or you can always do print name. So it's a, if you're practicing it on your local environment, you have to do print. Otherwise, it does not work. Okay. Anything else before we continue?
Nothing else. We can continue.
Okay, great. So we'll look at input, output, and files now. So input output is one of the most important function of any programming language. So input here in Python, I'm taking the example of input function. So there are scenarios where we want a input from the users because we have been writing code which pretty much which is just printing out what we want, but we also want the program to know what the user wants to input, right? So in that case we use this input function. So it's just an input function, and we can give a prompt. Prompt is nothing but any kind of string we provide, and it takes that particular input. Okay, so example is input, this input function, what is your name, and it will give you a text box where you can input your name, and that will be stored into a variable. So let's see this in action for input output, and let me go back to my collab, and okay, so this is the input output example. So this is like getting input from user. So I have this particular function input, and it just says enter something. Okay, and this whole function, what it does, it takes the value and then it stores in user input variable. Okay, and then I'm just printing out this particular user input variable here. So if I run this, you'll see that it gives me a prompt or a text box here to write. Okay, I can write anything. So I'm just saying Python. You can write any kind of string here, and until I press enter, it will not change. So once I press enter, again the execution starts and it just says Python, because that's what we are doing. We are taking the input function, we are taking the input from user and just printing it out. Okay, makes sense. So this is particularly useful when you're trying to do some kind of a program where you want dynamic inputs from the user. Okay, in that case this functionality is useful. You want it's like a real-time application, you can think of, where the user keeps inputting the values, right? So that's where this is useful. And moving ahead, these are again different types of formatting we use in Python. Last time I did explain about one format, the string formatting, and these are, so here we are using like a separator here. So you can see this is a string. There's nothing much complicated here. This is just a print statement, and we are saying, hey there, hello world, and then we are adding this particular argument here called separator, and we are saying that the separator has to be a hyphen. Okay, and then I want it to end in a uh, exclamatory mark. Okay, and this is what I want to print it out. So if I print this out, you will see that this particular string, it adds all hyphens to this particular string here, and then it adds this to the end. That's what I wanted. Separator I wanted as this, and the end to be this. And again, these are useful when you are doing some kind of string formatting programs where these can be useful. And this I had already explained last time. This is the f strings, where we use a print statement with f string, and you give these particular labels or attributes here, name and age. So these are taken from these variables. So I have a variable called name and age. So I print out this particular statements, and this is substituted over here as the name, and this 30 is substituted as the age. Okay, so when you run this, or if I change this, okay, if I run this again, it changes here. So this was another example of how we can use different string formats, okay, as part of the Python string format. And then this is another example here where we are having a format method, dot format method. So it's taking this particular uh, value of price, which is 49.99, and then we have a quantity of 3. Okay, you can see here what we have done is, again, we have added this placeholder here. Okay, so these are called placeholders. So here we have one placeholder and we have the second placeholder. Okay, and what we are trying to do is dot format, and we are trying to add this quantity and quantity times price. So in Python we can do something like this. So we have quantity here, which is 3. Okay, and the price is 49.99, and we can multiply them together here as part of the format, and then we can print it directly. So if you run this, we can see that the total price of 3 items is 149. So what it does is it multiplies these values and then it inserts them into this particular format. Over here, again, dot 2. Okay, dot 2 is just the decimal places. So we have this value of 49.97. So we are dealing with currency here. It's a dollar. So if we remove this, if I make this like 4 and try to print it out, it gives me this decimal place of 9700. But we don't want that because we are dealing with currency, right? So currency is always 2 decimal places, and so it gives me 49.97. This is how you also format things in Python. You can go and check other things. There are a lot of other functions available for these kind of formatting. So I'm only looking into very basic and usual use cases where we use this. And then this is the old style of formatting. I will not go into old style of formatting of Python. And then we also have some, again, the same f string related, where we give out, we add these particular values from a map. Okay, so data is a map. So last time we discussed about map, and when you run this, we get the weather in London is 22. So London, again, London and 22 are coming from the map. That's how we format this. Okay, so this was a kind of introduction to how input works in Python. So before I jump into the next session, are there any questions?
Nothing posted so far.
Okay, so now we come to the another important part, which is file handling. Again, every programming language needs a way to handle files, and again, Python also has built-in functionality to handle files, and we use them to create or read or write or open files. And so this is applicable everywhere. If you are writing some kind of program where you want to save the user data as a file, you can use this functionality. Or you want your program to just read something from the file, you can use this functionality. So it's like very fundamental skill for managing files and data applications. When I say again data applications, we'll be looking at data related activities in the next session, where we'll be using files a lot. We'll be reading a lot of Excel files or any kind of other data related files. So that time we'll be doing a lot of file related functionality. So the basic function to open a file is this particular open function. Like example is here. So I say that f equals open some demo file. Okay, this is how the syntax is. So let's jump into our files handling on Google Colab. So you can see that I already have these examples here. So one is writing to a file. So the way the syntax of how this works is with is a keyword. You are saying that with open your file name. So I'm giving the file name I want. So my file name is my file name.txt. And then I say w. So w is a argument which means that it is we are opening this file for writing. Okay, so it's pretty easy, and it's very intuitive that we are opening a file called myfile.txt for writing as f. Okay, this is assigned like an object. You can think of it as this whole thing as an object f. So I can say f dot write hello file. Okay, I'm writing inside this file. So what these two lines are doing is they are writing inside the file now, because it's a file object f dot write hello file, and this is another line. Okay, and let me just take this out and put it here. So if I run this, okay, so this runs fine. I don't have any print statement. The reason is because I'm writing to a file. So where is the file now? Okay, so in Google Colab, you have this folder structure here on the left hand side. You can see this folder here. If you click on that, you will get this particular folder, and you can see this is my file. Okay, and I can double click on that, and it opens it here, and you can see that it has written hello file, and this is another line. Okay, so this is how you create a file. Okay, and you can obviously go and delete this if you want, and you can delete because if you want to try it again. And let's try with reading a file. I'm just segregating things out here. So I don't have, again, I deleted the old file, so let me rerun it. So I have the file here again. Okay. And now what I'm trying to do is read from a file. Again, the same thing with open my file, okay, file name, and this time it's R. So the argument here we are passing is R. So R stands for reading. So the same function applies here as F. But what I'm trying to do is then I'm saying F dot read. So read is again a function which reads the file and then it stores it into a variable. So then when I have the variable, I am able to print it out. So if I run this now, it gives me this, the same thing. Okay, and just to show that this is reading the same file, let me go and edit this as third line or something. Okay, and I can save it. And if I again run this read file, you can see that it is reading from the same file. Okay, I have this particular line which I added just now. So this is how reading works in Python. Reading a file in Python works. And then you have something called as append to a file. So append is like you're appending a instead of rewriting the file again, you're appending, you're adding to the file from like, sorry, append is where you add new lines to the file or new strings to the file. So let me, if I run this, you can see that my file has this new line here, which is appending this line. Okay, so this is what it has added. Instead of overwriting the whole file, it has added to a new line here. So that is what append does. Then we also have a functionality where we have something called as read line by line. Okay, this is useful when you have a very big file and you just want to read chunk of the file. So here we are using a for loop and we are saying for line in F, read the lines. Okay, so this particular output is coming from this particular function where it is reading it line by line. Okay. Yeah, so this is what,
Question.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, we have few questions. One is we don't need a library module like in C and all. You do hash include and all. We don't need for
Yeah,
file handling.
yes, yes, correct. We don't need that in Python. So these are all built in, which are available. We don't have to import or include any kind of libraries as part of Python. So these are all built in.
Okay. What file formats does it support for
It's
reading?
up. Yeah, it supports a lot of file formats. Basically, this is like by any, it will support any kind of file you want to open. For now, in programming, we usually use text, or like
Hmm.
we'll see in the next session, we'll see that we are trying to import files like Excel, or you have some files called Parquet or something like that. So all data related files all can be handled with Python.
Yeah. One more interesting question from Subramanian. Can we open PDF files and particularly PDF with password?
No, not directly with that. What with this? We'll have to add additional functionality. I think there are libraries available for PDF related files, because PDF files have their own different way of opening and all. So that is not handled by the normal Python libraries. So you need to import like PDF related libraries and then handle them.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Okay, great. So we'll jump on to, again, one of the most exciting thing in programming, which is errors and exceptions. So, so programming is all about errors, and you need to have some kind of functionality to handle these errors, right? So if you want to build any kind of application which runs smoothly or which is very resilient, you need to handle the errors, okay, which it throws. So the way to manage errors in Python is through exceptions, or you can directly have any kind of condition to handle the errors, right? So ultimately, as a programmer, you want the program to run smoothly. You don't want it to crash. right? For anything, you provide some kind of input and you don't want to crash it. Okay. So in that case, we have to handle the error ourselves. Okay. And again, so Python by default provides you all this. You have things called try except and finally blocks here. You can see one of the examples here. So we know that in programming, okay, this is very fundamental concept in programming, that you cannot divide by zero. Okay, any number cannot be divisible by zero in programming. So we are doing it deliberately here. So we are saying result equals 10 by 0, and it will throw a error. So what we are trying to do is, then we are trying to catch it here. So this except is, it's saying that zero division error, and when I get this, I want you to print can't be divided by zero. So we'll see this in action. So it's better to jump into Google Colab. Okay, and I have this error handling here. So you can see that I have the same function, result equals 10 by 0, which I'm trying to divide 10 by 0. And if I run this, it just says cannot divide by 0. Okay, your program is not crashing here. But instead, if I try to do this without the try except block, and if I just try to do result, okay, it throws an error. So this is like kind of an ugly error here. You can see this, it means that the whole program kind of crashed here. That's why it says these traceback values and all. But here you can see that I'm doing the same thing, but here it is like kind of handling it very gracefully. It tells me that, okay, that you cannot divide by 0 because here I'm trying to print it out. So it's much more user friendly than to throw these kind of very dangerous errors, which people, when they see for the first time, they think like, what is this going on? So it's always better to throw them something which is very subtle and they are able to understand. Okay, and the same thing is for this try except finally condition here. So I'm trying to open a file. So we saw example of how to open a file. So this is a non-existing file, which means the file, I don't have the file with me and I'm trying to read from the file. Okay, so when I try to do this again, it says that the file was not found. So if I did not have that, it will again throw some kind of very if I try to do this, right, again, it will throw this kind of error here. So instead of doing this, what I'm trying to do is again handle it very gracefully here. I'm saying the file was not found. Okay. And finally, block is something where if the error is thrown or not thrown, it will always execute. You can see that even if the error is thrown here, this finally block will always execute. So this is used in terms of when you're writing programs where you will use this logic that you catch a error or you don't catch a error, but you want something to be always executed after this block, and you use finally. Again, finally is something which is a bit advanced concept. I just put it here just for knowledge purpose, but for now you can just think of these errors and exceptions and how to handle them. Okay. Yeah, you can also, yeah, these are like how the Python you handle errors in Python. So let me switch.
One question.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Couple of things. Could you please tell us how to debug code? You showed that there is an error, and then how to do? Is there any other way to do that? Like,
See, code is always under your control. Okay.
mm,
It's the programmer's logic, right? So like here I'm saying result equals 10 by 0. So as I told you, division by 0 is prohibited in programming. So if I say like 10 by 5, okay, I can run this, and let me print out the result. See, it runs normally here. Okay, so when I do 10 by 5, it is fine because it divides and it says the 2 is the answer. So, but if I do it by 0, it will obviously throw the error because it's a wrong kind of activity or wrong kind of programming. So you always handle the logic yourself as a programmer. you try to see how the logic is. Okay, does that answer your question? So this is again very basic example, right? 10 by 5, again, it's a very small math example, but when you have very big programs, you will be going through a lot of, again, logic, and you will try to figure out. That's how you debug a program.
In case of exceptions, what if I don't know the exact error type but still want to catch? Is there a generic exception?
Yeah, it's there. And I don't have that example here, but you
Yeah.
have user-defined exceptions in Python. You can define your own exceptions over there, and then you can throw them, and you can use them in this way. Okay, you can have it as some exception and user-defined exception, and you can catch that. So
Okay.
that provision is available. So again, I did not include all those things because
Mm.
this was more for the beginners, right? And people who are coming from other backgrounds like Java or C++, they will understand. Okay, you have user defined exceptions, so those are always available in Python.
In the way we do iteration, right? If there's a for loop, if you want to go every iteration, how the value of I is, and then something, is there a step through debuggers in Python to see how it is executing and what values watch
Okay,
flag
that
and things like that?
debugger thing, you if you are using a kind of IDE, that will be useful.
Okay.
You don't have it here in the Google Colab.
Mm.
If you are using a Python IDE, right,
Mm.
there you will have that functionality.
Yeah. In the recent past, with AI coming in, Sumant, the Gemini feature fix a error and things. How successful is it, and how matured is it now in Python?
You can see with AI, I always caution people that you need to first understand the basics before jumping into any kind of programming. Until you don't understand the basic, if you are starting, you'll always face some kind of issues. And I can give a quick example here. Okay, and Gemini has this generate function, right? So last time I was trying to, like, print numbers from 1 to 10. Okay, very basic prompt I'm giving to the AI. Okay, you can see it provided me the code. Okay, now as a beginner, okay, I don't know what this is. Okay, if I try to run this, I will face error. Okay, it's saying, it's throwing an error here. Okay, so as a beginner, I don't know what is happening, but as an experienced person, I know that there is an indentation problem. Okay, I can go here and say I, but I can also add print I. When I do this, only then this it prints out the numbers. Okay, so when you are when you are a beginner with AI, you have to be careful of these things, because it will give you code, but sometimes it can be wrong, and sometimes it can be correct. But if you know the basics, you will be able to uh, you know make the corrections, and then print out what the correct result. Okay, and here also as well, we have something called as range 1 comma 11. People might assume that we are printing from 1 to 11, but we are only printing from 1 to 10. So I will not tell you why that is, but let you go and figure out why we are giving here 1 comma 11 in, because but we are printing it from 1 to 10. Okay, any questions, any other questions?
Nothing else for now.
Okay, great. Let's jump into the next. Okay, so we have JSON data and web APIs next. So we are last time someone was asking about JSON. So what is JSON? JSON is JavaScript object notation. Okay, it's a kind of a data interchange format. Okay, and it's easier for humans to read and for the machine. What essentially it means is that it's a way to communicate between different systems. Okay, let's say you have a system in Python. You have one system which is in Python and one system which is in Java. Okay, and you want those system to communicate or talk to each other. The way you do it is with JSON. Okay, you can think again a basic example. You have a person who is talking in German, and you have a person who is talking in French. Okay, and they cannot talk directly, and what they use is they use English as a common language to talk. and you can think of JSON as an interchange format, just to exchange information. Okay, and the way JSON is set up, it is written as name value pairs. So it's more like a dictionary in Python. So you have this particular name and then you have a value, right? So you can see that in JSON we always use curly brackets, and then we always use double quotes for any kind of name value pair. So this first name value pair is first name, it has double quotes, and then the value is also in double quotes. um, and then yeah, so JSON is mostly used when we are working with servers and clients. So I'll not go deep into what a server and a client is, but when we are dealing with some kind of web APIs and all, we use JSON as a common format. So let's jump into code, and so you can see that I have this particular JSON data here. So for JSON, you can see that JSON library is not available directly. When we are running Python, we have to import it. So I say import JSON, and then I start working with that. Okay. So I say import JSON, and then this is my JSON data. And this I have it as a string where name is John, age is 30, city is New York. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put it back into a dictionary. Okay, so this is my Python object. So I can say json.load this particular JSON object into a dictionary. If I print it out, it will give me this particular dictionary. So you can see the difference here. The reason I had this example is that in a dictionary, you always have this single quotes. Okay, and in JSON format, you always have double quotes. Okay, that's how you can come to know, okay, this is a JSON format, and this is kind of a dictionary. Okay, you can keep in mind that double quotes always is like for the JSON format. And this is another example where we are trying to write a JSON file. So we have some data here. Okay, again, this is a dictionary. You can see it's a single quote. Okay, and we have this particular dictionary which has ID, product, lab, price, and again I'm using the file operations here to open a file, and I'm using the write option, and what I'm trying to do is dump it. So json.dump, what it does, it takes these values and it dumps it into the file. Okay, and let's run this. Okay, if I run this, I have this particular statement here, data returned to output.json. I can go into the folder and I can see that this file has been created. So if I open, you can see this is the JSON format, JSON file it has created. So JSON file always has this particular characteristic where, again, like I said, it has these double quotes, and you have these. So numbers are not in double quotes, but string values are always in double quotes in JSON. So this is your JSON file. Okay, so it has been created with this particular functionality. And the same thing for reading. So now I already have the JSON file. I have this again function here, output.json is the file, and I'm trying to read it. And if I run this, it goes there and it prints out this output. So what I can do is that I can show you that you can go here and edit. So I can add something here, a quantity, okay, and I can say 3, which is again an integer, and I can save the file. Okay, and I can come back here and read it. You can see that the value in the JSON, sorry, the dictionary here, it has this particular quantity added. Okay, because I added it in the JSON file. So these are the very basic operations using JSON. Yeah. So before we jump to the next thing, are there any questions?
No questions in chat.
Okay. So we can jump to where. Okay, we can jump to web API. Okay, and this is bit complicated. I'll not be going through everything. So web API is again a way to communicate with other online resources. Maybe you have a server and you have some kind of client and you want to communicate with those two. So you have a couple of functions going from client to server. So in that way we use web APIs. So I would like you guys to go and read about what API stands for. So API stands for programming application programming interface, and what it does, I want you guys to go and read and understand. It's a very big concept. I cannot explain this in a very short time. And we will also be using REST. So REST API is how it is called in the web environment or in the world of web. And what we do is with these APIs, we kind of use it for methods and data format exchanges, right? So you want to exchange some kind of data with these systems, we use this. So these are like the common methods we have, which are get, post, put, pass, and delete. Again, not going too much into this. So whenever I say get, okay, I want the information from the server to be retrieved. I like example is get all the user, get user number one, right? There will be some entry in the server which has the value of one. You can say get the user where the ID is one, right? So this is that example. Or I can say get all the users. Now post put are again, if your post is used when you want to create a new user, and these are like again for updating, and then if you want to delete. So this can be a bit of confusing, but people who have used web technologies, it will be easier for them to understand what web APIs are for. So again, Python has functionality for that. It supports that, and for that we use the requests module. So request module is not available directly within the normal Python. You have to install it. Install in the sense that it's a third party library. You can install it with pip install requests. So once you have this installed, you can use that. So when you run this for the first time, it will install it. So I have already installed it, so that's why it says requirement already satisfied. Okay. And then I have this bit of lengthy program here. So let me explain it bit by bit. Here I'm saying import request. Okay, this is the library I have imported. So I'm saying import request. And then I have this URL. Okay, so this is called the random user URL. So the thing about this particular URL is if I open that in a separate tab, it always gives me a random or dummy data. Okay, these are all dummy datas which are available online for anyone to go and like test it out or anything. If they want to test their servers or any kind of client, they can use this URL. So every time I refresh, it gives me a new data which is like kind of dummy. Okay, so I'm using this particular URL, and what I'm trying to say is I'm using the URL variable here, which I'm assigning it to this, and I'm saying request.get URL. Okay. Um, so whenever you do a request, okay, it goes out into the web and it grabs the content. Okay, so it grabbed this particular content, whatever content is there, it grabbed it, and now it is storing it into a response object here. So I have this response variable. So also I'm checking if the response.status code is 200. Now in terms of web, right, we always expect 200. 200 means that the request or the response is correct. There's no problem with that. So again, it's a very web technology based concept, not going too much deep in that. So I say that if the status code is 200, I want the response to be as a JSON. And once I have it as a JSON format, I can again assign it to different variables within Python. Okay. So here, if I run this particular program, you can see that right now I'm just printing out the name and the location of this person, the dummy data person. Okay, and if it fails, okay, let's say if that this particular website is not available, if it fails, it will give me this API request failed error. So you can see this is my exception here. and it says that error occurred during API request. But this is always up online, so it will always fetch the data. And you can see that if I run it multiple times, I keep getting different names because it is always going back to that URL and fetching the data. So this is one way of handling web APIs in Python. We are I'm not exclusively covering the web-based Python here. So I will not be going into all the different routes or like controllers and all that. So this is like the basic, very basic stuff here. Okay. So back to the slides. Any questions on
Two
this?
questions. Yeah, yeah. So we have two questions. Sudeep has asked, can we read the entire JSON file without a for loop?
Yeah, there is no for loop here. If you see that, we are actually reading the entire file, right? Sorry, which did you mean
Mm.
from the previous
Sudeep,
example?
Sudeep, was there any place because we are reading the file JSON? Maybe it's a previous example in JSON. You want to
Okay.
unmute Sudeep? Okay, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, yeah,
One
sure,
more
sure.
question was I have been using SharePoint lists for a long time, and I have seen the theme or formatting of SharePoint list getting stored in a JSON format. So if I need to understand such formats and re-edit it or write a new JSON format, are there any ready-made tools?
I need to check on that. I'm not sure. So you're using SharePoint related. So maybe there are some SharePoint related libraries or functions which already have that JSON. The way to convert objects into the JSON or back to the object. So it's called a marshalling and unmarshalling. You can check on that to
Okay,
convert between JSON formats.
okay, okay, sure. Sudeep, are you there? I think you're referring to the JSON, the previous question probably.
Yeah, so maybe like I'll just give this is the last section. So like just want to end this here, then we can like directly jump into other questions we have. So this was more of intermediate Python. So I did not cover everything of Python, but like whatever the main concepts are there, I've covered. And again, in previous session, we covered the basics. And then we'll continue with the next session with the data. Like I said, we'll be looking at data related functionality. Yeah. With that, let me like kind of stop sharing my screen for now and like maybe get into questions.
Mhm. We'll have general interaction also. And
Yeah, sure.
any questions so far? Let me check. I just sent a poll. Please respond to that. Are you able to see the poll? Mm, I'm figuring out where the poll comes. Okay, can we convert our Python code to DLLs or APIs?
DLLs or APIs. So APIs come in the concept of web. So if you are doing any kind of web related services or all that with Python, you are using some kind of Flask frameworks and all. You can create APIs. DLLs, I'm not sure. Is it like you're referring to as some kind of applications within Windows environment? Right, Janardhan, DLL is used for Windows, right? So
DLLs is typically Windows, correct?
yeah, so maybe they're asking if we can create applications, Windows applications with Python. You can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Then could you share something around automation as well? Topics are more important, especially testing automation for handling elements on the web.
Oh, no, I have not
That's mm,
gone extensively into that particular testing automation. I think there are libraries which are used for doing these web testing, right? I'm not aware of that much.
mm. Okay. We can get somebody from the community to take something. As we go forward, I'll just cover something. I'm seeing the poll, and I see that good number of people are new to programming. So these sessions, what you're attending, it's supposed to give you like a syllabus of programming, not really to cover depth or too much of the content in that. This is just to give you a starting point. The expectation is, as Sumant mentioned earlier, there are tons and tons of videos. These sessions will be more interactive and useful if you practice it all through the week. And if you have any questions, post it on WhatsApp group. Earlier, we created a Discord group. Maybe Discord was not very familiar with the people. So we just today created a WhatsApp group. Post your questions there, and there'll be somebody to answer them. As I mentioned, programming, if you're learning for the first time, everything looks very different and difficult, but you have to practice and practice, and you have to get familiarized with yourself with the concepts. For example, the JSON and the API and the web scraping and all others, they have infinite possibilities in terms of what you can do with them. They're very powerful, so it takes yourself some time to soak. Please spend the extra time daily, 1 to 2 hours every day of the week you spend. That's when you get more confidence in these areas. Yeah, I'll share the WhatsApp link again. I had posted a while back. I'll post again. What's the other question? Other question is, today is my first day. I missed the last session. Very nice session and explanation for beginners like me. Thank you. Going forward, are we going to cover data science as well? Yeah, go ahead, Sumant.
Data science, we'll be looking at data, not data science exactly like ML concepts and all, but we'll be looking at the way to handle data in Python. So we have libraries called NumPy, and we'll be looking at those examples in the next week.
By the way, this series that we started, the 4 week series, the format in which we choose and what we are doing is very specific. But as we go forward in this meetup group, we will have very specific focus areas like web development or frameworks for automation and testing, how to automate much of your daily work, okay, in terms of prompt engineering and how do you excel in a programmatic way. So there are many possibilities, and we will even invite domain experts who are in multiple different fields, whether it is medical field, whether it is astrophysics, any field we'll invite, and then ask them how they use Python and related programming skills. Okay. So this is a series just for introduction. We started off this group, and then Sumant was kind enough to get started. But you can expect more of such series or even the individual sessions going forward. If any of you familiar with the concepts of web scraping or automation or frameworks, please ping me. Please raise your hand, ping me. I'll share my email address. Okay, or you can post it in the group, and I'll connect with you on WhatsApp. Any other questions? Anyone? You can unmute and ask, or you can post it in chat group. Okay, if nothing else, thanks, Sumant.
Yeah,
We'll meet again next
yeah,
week.
sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, bye all.